Hi, I'm Donna Davis. Welcome to For the Birds with Richard Cole. Richard is usually live in our studio, but this time we wanted to do something a little bit different. I talked to Richard and his wife Nancy in their home about Cole's and how they started the business, all the challenges, the opportunities over the years, and how tough it is to start a family-owned business like this. So the first question I ask of Richard and Nancy is just tell me about Cole's and how you started the business.
We got into it by accident, really, and it was a long journey. My wife, Nancy, her father gave us a bird feeder right after we were married, and we started feeding birds because he gave us a bird feeder. We really liked it. We found out that it was very enjoyable to watch the birds come into the feeder. We did notice something else along the way, that they threw out most of the seed. Nancy and I were living in an apartment at the time, and so we could see right on the porch what was dropped. And it was most of what we had put in the bird feeding tube. And I thought that was curious.
We basically went to the library and did a lot of research. There was not the internet, and, there was no way of Googling, what do birds like to eat. So the library was our friend.
There was some research done about what birds really like to eat, and it had nothing to do with what was in most commercial bird seeds. So I just started making my own. And all of a sudden I started getting a lot of birds at my feeder and very little bird seed being thrown out. And that festered in my little mind for a year or so and just kept gnawing at me like something's not right here. So we just started playing around, and I put somebody had come over and said, "You've got a lot of birds." I said, "Oh, we feed them the right things." And, "Oh, can I have some?" "Sure." So we grabbed a newspaper bag and put some bird seed in it and gave it to them. And I started bagging bird seed in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution newspaper bags, little plastic bags, and with a twist tie. And that was, I'd give to the people who wanted it every now and then. And it just grew from that. I said, "Well, I want some more." And I quit giving it away, and we started selling it. It doesn't take long to realize that, well, there's a business here. And over a few years, we refined the business, and we got more and more people to buy the birdseed through catalogs, because this is before internet days. And so we had a little catalog we had printed up, and we could pass it around to people, and they could order.
It just kind of grew from there, Richard and I didn't think it was going to be a big business, but it actually did.
We had full-time jobs, and so we would take orders on the phone. We would get orders in the mail. We would have people drop by, and we would make bird seed on the weekends in our spare time and bag it up. And over a longer period of time, we ended up getting some better equipment, but we were in our garage. And we were hand bagging and using a gigantic sealer mill type thing to seal the bags. And that's basically how we got the business started. And it, like I said, it grew from that point in time and was over a long period of time, 3 or 4 years, till it became to the point that we were doing a good amount of business part-time. And and like everybody else in the world, we had our corporate jobs and we all wanted to do something else. And I saw this as an opportunity. I think Nancy was ready to leave the corporate world, and we decided that we'd make this business full time. And we started down that road, and it just got busier and busier. We decided we'd just open a bird store, something for wild birds, feeding people. And we started down that road. That took another probably year and a half of thinking and wondering and figuring how we could do it, because we were just two people working in corporate America. We didn't have a lot of money, had very few real assets, and we were thinking about having a store. And of course, it started to get frightening, like we really wanted to do this, and we started realizing how much money it would cost and what retail space rents were. But we believed in the business, and we had seen this steady growth over 3 or 4 or 5 years, really, to the point where it was actually breaking even. Because when you first start out, you can't afford to buy in bulk. If you could, you had no place to store all that stuff, because this is big, heavy stuff, and it's expensive. But we did it just a little at a time. When we got ready to open the store, we still really weren't making a lot of money on it, but the business was good and it was solid, and our clientele kept growing. Every year, we'd have more sales.
Well, as you've just heard from Richard and Nancy, there were so many challenges just starting your own business, with both of them working full time when they started Kohl's. But I asked them specifically to tell me about some of their very biggest challenges along the way.
The biggest challenges was working full time and also running a business. And that was a big challenge. And of course, once we opened a store, then we had to hire employees. So, that's always a challenge as well. And making sure you have the right ones that fit in with your personality of the corporation.
The time it takes to do everything and the lack of knowledge that we had in that type of environment, the learning curve, and the finances. Because here we were in a retail space that was costing a lot of money every month, just getting enough money in. We had to really be careful how much we spent at home, because every dollar needed to stay with the store. Because as the customers increased, we needed to put more stuff on the shelves, more than what we started with, because it looked kind of empty. So then you start that battle of who gets the dollar? Do we eat or does the store get it? No question, the store got it. Oh, we didn't starve to death, but it was close. We stayed at the store a lot. We didn't have a lot of extra help. We put the time in. Nancy would be there from the time it opened to the time it closed. I would show up when I could, and on the weekends help out. And then we'd bag seed in our garage at night. So it was that type of, I think, dedication to this dream we had to make this thing work. And once we got into it, it's a slippery slope. You can't stop now. You better make it work, or you're going to be pulling out that disaster plan out of the hip pocket because you're going to be bankrupt and out of work. We were dedicated to making it work, and it did.
So it's one thing to start a business, and that's challenging. About 80% of businesses fail within the first 3 years. So Richard and Nancy knew that it was going to be difficult and they would have to work hard. But there are some unique things about starting a business with both husband and wife. Many people have the corporate job that keeps them going while the other one starts a business. But I asked them what it was like to have a business with your spouse.
We get along very well. Nancy and I are in many ways very much alike. We have our differences, which is absolutely good because we balance each other, I think, very well. We've been with each other quite a while, so we knew we were compatible. We stayed with each other. We went places together. So we had that relationship. And this was just another step in that. She just changed jobs, basically. She's just working somewhere else. And I get to drop by work every now and then and help her out. And so then at home, we'd work together. And we did that for a long time. I think after the first year of opening the first store, we doubled the size of it because it was just too small to handle the amount of business we were doing.
We didn't have a lot of personal time or fun time. So, but we knew that if we continued on working the business, that it would be successful. I think you have to have a mindset that, this is going to work. And if you don't have that mindset, then you're definitely going to fail the business.
In this period of time, we were working so hard for so long, we had no life. And there were issues. We were both tense and worn out. Our personal relationship, it was hard. It got harder and harder through those years because all we did was work. And like I said, it just got harder and harder on us personally. But we realized that at some point in time, we made changes. We're two people trying to run these stores and doing all the other stuff. So when we got somebody to help, which took the rest of our excess money, but it took the pressure off of us so we could focus on the finesse of running the businesses and take a little time for ourselves. It was us doing something that we wanted to do to get somewhere in our life, to capture that dream of having some money, extra money to spend one day, maybe being able to buy a real car, just nicer stuff. We wanted the middle class, or upper middle class even, we had big dreams, American dream. And we saw that as a way we could do that and do it ourselves, something that was kind of unique. And yeah, so we worked together well, and we worked together all the time. I don't know, it was, we were together all the time, except when she was at the store and I was at the company I worked for. Other than that, it was at home doing the regular house stuff, and then all the business stuff, all the seed bagging, and it just kept on. And so we were together 24/7, basically.
I also asked Richard and Nancy about some of the biggest risks they took when starting Kohl's.
We didn't have enough money to do anything. So we had to borrow money. And that means we had to go get a loan from somebody so we could buy, $50,000 or $80,000 worth of inventory, plus some fixtures and store fixtures and things like that, plus the down payments for the rent, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, okay, we'll go to the bank and borrow it. This is easy. And we did our homework, and I made a nice little business proposal and did everything you're supposed to do. And we went to the banker, and he listened to our story with a quizzical look on his face. And so, you're going to open a bird store? You say, no, this is a store where we sell feed for wild birds and bird feeders and books. And they're like, oh, okay. He didn't get it. But he was going to give us the money. And we told him how much we need, and he just looked at us and said, well, you don't need enough. I had no response to that. The banker told me I didn't need enough money for him to give me a loan. I didn't know what to do. And he explained the SBA rules. They had to make the loan for so much money, and what I was asking for was less than that. And I told him, well, wait here a few minutes. We'll go out in the car. I'll change the proposal. We'll come back in, and it'll be for more money. And he said, no, I'm sorry. We ended up going to another bank and met a wonderful guy who owned the bank, who listened to us, and he knew about feeding birds because he did it. So he had a good clue what we were talking about. And we started talking, and he was hesitant, and Nancy just kept going. She wouldn't stop. She just kept pitching and pitching and pitching. And I think he finally just got tired and said, okay. And we got a loan. Our cars, our homes, any assets we had were tied to that loan from that bank.
Mortgaging the home, that was a big risk. If it didn't make it, would they come take our house away? And, I didn't know, what would happen to us if that did happen. So to me, that was a big risk. I remember signing the first lease for our first store, and the landlord asked me if I was nervous, and I thought, I wish he didn't say that, because it made me nervous, Then
you sit there on opening day and hope that somebody will show up. Right after we opened, somebody came in, and it's like, do you know this person? No. And that's good, because you don't want your next door neighbor and the three people you were selling birdseed to down the street to show up, and that's it. So a few minutes later, somebody else came in. And so at the end of the first day, it's like, oh, we just had some customers. They bought stuff. They were happy to see us, and they said they'd be back. And it was a good day. And then it's like the next day, well, that was opening day. What's going to happen now? Same thing. And that went on and on. It didn't slow down.
I couldn't help but ask Richard and Nancy if there were ever times that they thought about just giving up and walking away because it was so demanding and so difficult to start the business.
I think there was a time later when I was talking about it got so hard for us to run 3 stores by ourselves, basically, and struggling with trying to make the payments, and the money was always just tight. And then that's when our personal relationship started getting strained. At that point in time, I think we were both saying, yeah, is this worth it? Is this worth it? And that went on for a period of time. And so we got past that. So that was good. After that, it's like, yeah, it's always worth it, because we made that turn. We turned that corner, and we could say, this is bigger than what we thought it was going to be. Now we have 3 stores. Oh, now there's 4 stores. Well, oh, now there's 5 stores.
Once you get into it, it's like having kids, What do you do if you have an 8-year-old kid and he's like, I can't handle it anymore,
It's fun. It's fun. It's exciting. It's like you feel like you're accomplishing something, and everybody thinks you're rich, but you don't have no money because everything's in the stores, and you can sell the stores and take your money, but then you'd be out of work. So it's all for the company. It's all for the stores and the glory of being in business.
Richard and Nancy Cole have really been successful entrepreneurs, starting a family business with absolutely just making birdseed and putting it into newspaper bags. So they really are that quintessential American dream. So I asked them what lessons they learned that they could share with other entrepreneurs or people who thought about starting their own business.
You better be 100% in, all in or nothing. If you're not going to make it. You better be prepared for a long haul, hard work, and not spend any more than you have to, except in the right places. Spend the right amount of money at the right time. If you spend money too fast before the business grows, you're going to run out of money. If you don't spend enough, you'll never grow. So it's that balance of paying your employees right to keep good employees, running as much advertising as you can to keep people coming and spreading the word. It's all goes together.
Entrepreneurs are perfectionists. And I think probably letting other people do things that instead of you doing them and they're going to be done right, is just passing that on to them so that you can have more free time. It is a drawback trying to do everything because you're going to do it the right way. So, and understanding that other people can do things just as well and do them just a little differently.
I also asked Richard and Nancy Cole if you could go back and do anything differently based on the knowledge that you have now, what would it be?
I don't know what I would change. It's hard to say, because even if you think about it, you have good times and bad times in your life. The good times, like, oh, this is exciting, this is fun, makes me smile. And in the bad times, you learn things from it. And if you pay attention to what got you into that mess, you learn more, and you're better to go forward and not repeat the same problems. And we made mistakes. We didn't make a lot of them, I don't think.
If I could go back and start it over again, or a lesson that I learned was to work less hours. Maybe the business would have succeeded in working less hours as opposed to, working the long hours that I did. Not having the free time to do other things with Richard or my family.
Could we have grown to more stores? Probably could. Could we have 20 or 30 stores now? Maybe. But we ended up with 5, 6 stores, and it was fine. We had a good income from that. And then there's the birdseed business, which we still had going on. Doing all of this, we grew that business also.
Owning your own business really is the American dream. So I asked Richard and Nancy what they like most about owning their own business.
It's a sense of accomplishment. I think that's really what it is. Like, I did that. We did that. And it's I think it's important to both Nancy and I that this is something we accomplished in life. We took that road few take and we pulled it off. And are we, we have all the money in the world and think, no. We're comfortable now, but we did this. So it's a very strong sense of accomplishment. And I think that's invaluable.
People recognize you, in the store that you own the store, and the customers enjoyed being in the store. They were your friends. They invited their friends into the store. So it kind of gave you a very warm, homey feeling, even though I wasn't home very often. I felt like that was my home. The store, I invited people into the store, was inviting people into my home.
I also asked them, what's the worst thing about owning your own business?
It's your life. It's every bit of your life. You can't let go of it. You can't just walk away and be haphazard about who's running it, what's going on, sales, money, everything. You have to stay on top of it, or there's a really good chance it will fail. All kinds of things can go wrong when you aren't totally managing your business. Long
hours and finding employees, trusting them. I can say I was very picky on who I hired, and you just have to trust people that they will do the best job that they can do, and it's not going to be what you like, but it'll be their personality and not yours.
I was getting up in age rapidly, and it was like, well, are we ever going to retire? And I couldn't foresee that. I didn't want to. That's part of owning your own business. It's almost like you're raising your kids, and then, well, they're 22 now. Don't you think you ought to let them go? You can't. Yeah, you can. But I didn't want to retire. I think Nancy was ready before I was, and but then there came one day when it's like, yeah, you gotta move on. And I thought, I won't know how to do this, because when you're running a small business, and I consider it a small business, it becomes, if you're doing it right, it becomes not just what you do, it becomes who you are. Oh, he's the bird guy. He owns this. She's the lady that handles all this. She's the owner. So it becomes your identity. And I was, I think, somewhat hesitant, like, well, if I don't do this anymore, who will I be? Oh, that only lasted about a week. Like, oh, and we walked away from that side of the business. And I don't think either one of us looked back.
Cole's Wild Bird Products has gone through many challenges over the years. So I asked Richard and Nancy, what were some of the major milestones along the way?
One of the milestones was basically opening a store, taking it to another store. We had 5 locations. It was just a very big step along the way.
The first store was it because you have just jumped off the cliff. You better figure out something on the way down, or you're going to splat. So yeah, it's that first thing that's excitement. I mean, there's an adrenaline rush when you're doing this, and you're scared, and you're happy when the cash register goes ding. It's a lot of emotions involved, but then you get a hold of it. It calms down. Like I said, about the second, third store, we say, we got this. This is working.
Yeah, that's exciting to see the product in your own store. It's it kind of gives you like, oh yeah, that's something that we started.
I think the second store was a turning point because it got us both out of the corporate world into this. Now we're both self-employed and we have a company that we own. So that was like, hooray. And there were some other points, I think, when the stores became as successful as they did, and it was a good feeling. And we rode that for a while. We would go to the trade shows for products and all. Everybody would know us. It's like everybody loves us. Well, it's because we were buying a lot of their products. But everybody said, "Oh, Mr. Cole, oh, Nancy, come on," and they wanted to see us. So that was fun. It was an exciting time. And now we seem to be well known as a good birdseed company. Then I think toward the end, the decision to walk away. It was time. It was a good decision. But that was a turning point in our lives, really. It's like we've done this. And so many people never make that turn to get away. And we did it. And it was we probably could have done it 5 years earlier. But that's okay. We did it.
So you've heard a lot about the long hours and the dedication and all the challenges that the Coles face. But I also wanted to ask them about what's Coles like today and what's it like to look back on all you've done?
Coles is in a good spot. It sure came a long way from our garage. But there again, like the stores, there were a lot of good decisions that went into that. It didn't just happen. The stores helped pull it along because it had a market for it. It got it out there. Our decision to put it out into other places was the right decision at the right time. And so it started growing. We got some good distributors. Along in this point in time, right after I had opened the second birdwatcher store and left the corporate world, we had an opportunity to bring in my daughter, Elaine, to help at Coles. Obviously, with me at another store, this is taking up the time out of the garage. It was getting too big for the garage anyhow. She's still there, thank goodness. She has done a marvelous job. She's now the president of Coles and does a great job. She is dedicated to Coles like we were. So it's been fun to watch Coles progress.
It's exciting to see your product go from, bagging your own seed to seeing it everywhere, It has good advertisements. We do the calendar, and people recognize it that way. People look for the calendar now. So, it's kind of fun to see it grow.
Thanks for watching today. I hope you've learned a lot about the Coles story, and we'll see you again next time.
Hello, this is Richard Cole. I want to thank each of you for watching, and I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share it.